Hello and welcome to Attacking Third. What a weekend, what a time. We got to chat all about it. NWSL Week 6 action. I'm Sandra Herrera, joined alongside Jess McDonald. We're going to chat about all sorts of things. We're going to definitely talk about the match that just took place, Thorns versus Racing on a Sunday night. We're going to have all our biggest takeaways out of Week 6. We're going to drop our team of the week, so make sure you stick around to find out who cracked our attacking third best 11 out of week 6. And of course, we want to thank you all for joining us as always, whether you are live in YouTube, in the chat. Let us know how you're doing and how you're feeling. If you're joining us on Golazo Network, hello and thank you. We are going to make sure that we keep you up to date on all things NWSL. Join us after a quick break. Hello and welcome back to Attacking Third. Sandra Herrera, Jess McDonald, our producer Mark. We're riding as a duo tonight. And that's not a bad thing because there's a lot of chaos to talk about coming right out of the Sunday evening match for NWSL. Shout out to everybody joining us in the chat on YouTube. Let us know how you're feeling. I know you got some feelings about that last game that just took place, but don't worry. We're going to try to touch on some of the biggest things that occurred over week 6 because there was a lot of games. There was some midweek matches that took place. We gotta chat about all of it. So let's start there. Let's definitely start with a vibe check. Jess McDonald, how you doing tonight?
Whew. Heart rate is up after this Racing and Portland Thorns game. Boy, emotions have skyrocketed after Courage game last night. The Gotham Washington Spirit, my goodness, the NWSL is about to send me into early labor. Let's just put it that way. That's how I'm feeling right now.
Anytime you're on, Jess, I'm like, we got to start with Jess. We got to make sure we see how she's feeling, how she's doing, because we got to make sure Mama's doing all right before we take any deep dives into anything else across the league. But let's start with what's most fresh, what's most recent in our minds and on our brains. Portland Thorns versus Racing Louisville FC, closing out all the week 6 action in NWSL. And of course, it was literally the Wild Wild West up in here. Portland Thorns hosting Racing Louisville. This one ends in a 3-3 draw, 2 penalties, potentially a record for like the most fouls in a game. There was a lot. Most fouls without like cards issued. Folks are rightfully going to be feeling a certain type of way. But Jess, I want to go to you with this one because Racing on the road, walking away with the result. They're going to have some feelings about the type of result it is, I'm sure. But the look ahead for this team to kind of walk away with a point at this point in the season for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So coming off of, back-to-back losses, they lost last game at home against the Wave 4-1 and then come into one of the most difficult environments at Portland Thorns. I mean, they were seconds away from getting the 3 points on the road, which is a difficult thing to do in general in this league. But just to even get a point, it's something, and at the end of the day, they should be proud of themselves to obviously not get zero points, at the end of the day. But as the season goes on, I think that what's most important, even moving forward, even starting today's game, is just collecting as many points as you can. Points matter every single game. And this game, it had all the drama, man. But they started off on their front foot. This was their better performance today, getting 3 goals in comparison to their one last week against San Diego Wave. So, I mean, things are moving up. So they gave a hopeful performance today.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair for sure. I think I think if you're Portland coming out of this week where you have quick turnarounds, 2 matches that you're walking into and out of for this match week, snatching up 4 points out of 2 games is pretty nice. I think you're gonna take that, especially in this league, and get out of them. I think folks were gonna maybe try to look for a bit of rotation, just considering what they also have in front of them. For folks who maybe need a refresher, Thorns and Gotham had to squeeze in 2 games in match 6 because they are at 2 NWSL sides that are also competing in the upcoming CONCACAF Women's Champions Cup. It's kind of a big deal. You should tap in if you haven't. This is going to serve as just another one of those benchmarks for CONCACAF competition. It's 4 clubs who compete within the region, and there's a title on the line. So there's a semifinal that's going to be coming up at the end of May, and so this was the week in which these 2 teams kind of make up that kind of gap week where they'll be off competing in that tournament club competition. So they had a couple quick turnarounds here, and I think for Portland, that was the energy. It was like, how is Rob Gale and his coaching staff going to go ahead and navigate this player rotation where they can go ahead and pick up results along the way? And maybe huge like momentum swings, not just in this particular game alone, but just this overall week for Portland to go from this crazy high of just absolutely obliterating Gotham early on a Tuesday night to looking ahead to a Sunday night match against Racing, who's they're in a bit of a different position on the table than Gotham is. You couldn't help but wonder or feel like, geez, like, is this going to be like a huge swing for Portland? Because they're also a team that have been trying to figure some things out in this first quarter of the season. And we saw some of those rotations, but for some reason in that first half, just like it just was not clicking for Thorns. They looked, I don't want to say unprepared, because they had to do a lot this week, but they definitely didn't have the answers right away to start off this first 45 against Racing. And maybe some of that is, checking into the rotations here. There was no Sam Coffey for them tonight. That's a huge loss for them.
Yeah, Sam Coffey was absolutely a huge loss for them. She's such a great leader on the field. She's able to control the tempo a little bit, but this was all credit to Racing Louisville starting off on their front foot. They pride themselves on the high press, and when you have strikers who are committed to that high press, hence one of their goals, they created a turnover off a goal kick against Portland and kind of caught them on their heels a little bit. And so with that being said, Racing just made it difficult for Portland to play at the end of the day. They have so much more to prove than the Thorns do this season. They only have 1 win so far this season going up against Chicago Stars. And so for Portland, I think that with the lack of Sam Coffey today, someone who can completely control the midfield, she's just such a huge key piece for this Portland Thorns side, being able to keep possession, switching point of attack, because her and Jessie Fleming played so well. This was one of their best games that they played so well together since I've seen them playing. And that was against Gotham. They completely controlled the midfield. They looked confident, and they came onto their front foot on Tuesday at home, and then to turn around and kind of be on their heels a little bit, that lets you know how big of a difference Sam Coffey actually makes on their team. And so just with that being said, Racing they made it difficult for them today, because Gotham, they didn't press as high on Tuesday, but Racing, I mean, they started off damn near in their 18 the whole game, so pressing up high, starting with the strikers.
No, for sure. Folks in the chat, of course, actively asking, no one wants to be too overly concerned about Coffey. Just an excuse absence. And again, a lot of it could have to do with the fact that this was a double match week on short turnaround for teams and players. So just was listed as out on the Portland Thorns availability roster. But look, it was an area of the pitch that for that first 45, you could sort of feel the absence for sure. I do have to wonder if coming out of this week and coming out of this game, what are some of the other areas that we're going to have some fun with? Shout out to all the nerds tuning in and tapping in to us right now, because we're going to have some fun with some numbers. We're going to have some fun with some math. There were a ton of like records that were touched on throughout this week 6. You love to see it, love to hear it. Somehow, even just week to week, whether or not you're getting maybe a kind of crazy game, a crazy chaotic game like Thorns versus Louisville, there's still something to take away out of all of these games. There's records that are constantly being made and being broken. First time in NWSL history that 3 17-year-olds started a regular season match. The kids can play, and they are in NWSL. Shout out to Lauren Barnes with Seattle Reign, because she became the first player in NWSL history to reach 20,000 minutes. And Kansas City Current, even though they had a loss coming out of week 6, they are the team with 8 straight games putting up multiple goals. So they still found themselves getting on that score sheet coming out of week 6 and setting a bit of a record for themselves in the league. And we're going to shout out this player coming out of this game with Louisville, Lauren Milliet of Racing Louisville, the first player in NWSL history to appear in 100 consecutive regular season matches for one club. Not an easy feat, and just for me, pretty underrated and underappreciated player in NWSL.
I totally agree. You know what? She's one of the hardest working players that I've had the privilege of playing with. She came with us on the Courage, and then she got picked up by Racing Louisville. But the crazy thing is, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, her natural position is midfielder. She's a natural 10. She can play 8, and she's smooth with it too. And then she gets bopped into outside back position to play that many minutes, to be Iron Woman as an outside back. I don't know if people know how critical the outside back position is. You have to be in the final third. You have to be in the defensive third. You have to be everywhere on the pitch at 120s all game long. And for Lo Milliet to sit here and do this as if this has been her natural position her entire life, it's been nothing short of amazing. And you're absolutely right. Definitely underrated. I think that with her work rate and what she's doing in her playing career has been just phenomenal to watch, and then obviously phenomenal to play with as well. She's just so fantastic. I love her.
100%. Lauren Milliet, we salute you. Lauren Barnes, congrats. We've got some more fun with numbers and math. We're going to get into some other things that took place across the season, the regular season out of match week 6. Stick with us after a quick break. All right, we're back, and let's stay on track with some of these numbers and maybe pivot into a game that we gotta show some attention to here. Kaylee Kurtz hitting the 10,000 minute marks and doing it in another wild game out of week 6. NC Courage snapping a losing streak, snapping a winless streak. Let's just say that, a winless streak, picking up their first win, and Kurtz doing a big part to help the Courage get this win, getting those 10,000 minutes. Jess, I know you're happy about this result for the Courage. Let's talk about it a little bit.
Man, KK, watching her journey, she was actually a tryout player for the Courage when the Courage had picked her up. And coming into such a difficult environment, she has been down to the nitty gritty since day one. And I'm like, who is this girl? Coming out of South Carolina, she came and tried out for the team before preseason started, and playing behind Abby Ursig and Abby Dahlkemper, just watching her journey just rise, and then 10,000 plus minutes now, and then gets the goal also last night to tie the game up 2-2. Her leadership in the back has just been so brilliant. And I text her this all the time because one of the most beautiful things about the game for me is watching a player develop like KK. And the way that she's developed, I mean, to be honest, she'll probably laugh if she hears this. She didn't know her left foot from her right foot. Distribution was not there when she first came onto the team. But just watching her improve in so many areas of her game, like her distribution, left foot, right foot. She's pinging into half spaces. She's getting into the box. She's scoring goals for a center back like that. Watching her game rise, her presence has been just so unmatched for the club, and it showed last night. She doesn't give up. She's going to do anything and everything that she possibly can to continue to be successful and trying to be successful for her team. And man, that game, oh, my goodness, I was on an airplane watching it. And when KK scored, my first thought, and I wish I tweeted this because God is my only witness at this point. I was like, they're going to score again. After KK scored and tied it 2-2, I'm like, they're going to score again. Watch. And there was only a few minutes left in extra time. And I was just so emotional. I'm just so emotionally invested in this league in general. And I want to see all teams succeed. But, Courage has a little bit more of my heart than most clubs. But at the end of the day,
you may have done a few things for that club, just a little bit, just a little bit. There might be a couple, 2, 3, 4 million titles, to your name as part of the Courage. I'm with you though. That's why I'm like, please go ahead and speak on it, because I don't think you could be said any better than that. I mean, Casey Murphy also hitting 10,000 minutes with Courage during this game. And look, there's 5 goals in this game. Courage have this incredible stretch and stoppage time where they go ahead and really just snatch this away from Kansas City Current. You're talking about the best team in the league right now. People are going to have feelings about that, with some of the parity up top, but we've had multiple Kansas City Current players named to our team of the week out of every week. The first 6 match weeks of NWSL, they were on a 5-win streak. They were unbeaten in these 5 games to open up the season. They had so many things to give them that honor of the first quarter of the season, that they were the best team in this first quarter of the season. So they had everything. They were absolutely on the road as favorites away in this game, and yet somehow they do not have it. They let this game slip away from them, essentially, in stoppage time. So massive for the Courage here. Indeed, indeed, indeed. You love to see it. I think for some of the frustration in watching the Courage try to kind of, get things together. There have been some moments week in and week out where we're just like, maybe it's not so much tactics. Maybe it's figuring out the ideal starting 11, because there's talent on that bench. There's talent on the rest. Who is going to be, those connective players to make sure that things kind of pan out well and that the Courage continue to have success. And I'm sure for their supporters, this was a win that was a long time coming for them, because you could just sort of sense it in these final late moments of the game, where momentum is a huge factor in these games and it could swing any which way. And to not only go up against what's arguably the best team in the league at the moment, but in a team that is constantly getting on the scoreboard, but have made those adjustments defensively themselves. The Current have Lorena and goalkeeper and some pretty good defenders. Almost kind of, I've said, champagne problems on that back line, because they can rotate in and out for their fullbacks or across that line as well. And so whoever you're slotting in and out, they're typically getting the job done for the Current. But we could see just sort of the Courage kind of take over this game. And so not only do they win this game, they put up these 3 goals against a very good team who are good in the attack, have Temwa Chewinga, but are also very, very good in the back as well. So for me, that's equally as impressive, within the win as well. So kudos to the Courage. Congratulations on picking up that first win. We have other matches and things that we're taking a look at. Something for me that I thought was really, really cool as we continue to track the numbers and have a little bit of fun with math. We had a bunch of first-time goal scorers across the league out of week 6. We had Cher Shapansky, Ryan Williams. We had Kimmy Piscato. We had Katie Zellum, Haley Hopkins. We had Jordan Heidema, first of the season. Kundananji, first of the season. So these were not only first-time goal scorers in general of their career in Shapansky, Williams, and Escano, but for their clubs as well. So they were scoring for the first time for their clubs, or they're scoring their first goals in the season. This goes in line a little bit, Jess, with some of the conversations that we've been having on Attacking Third regarding this particular rookie class. And I think if we narrow down this first time goal scorer list that I just read off, for Shapansky, Williams, and Escano, these are three players that are kind of joining the ranks of like nailing a goal in the first of the career. But Shapansky is joining this long list of rookies who are like finding themselves on the score sheet for the first time. Is there something in the water right now in NWSL?
Man, there's something, because if you look at it, Shapansky and Ryan Williams are outside backs.
Yeah,
they're outside backs.
Yeah,
and Ryan ended up receiving the ball in the run of play, a great through ball to her. I mean, she just came out of nowhere. And you know, I got to give her credit, and I have to let the public know she is probably one of the fittest teammates I've ever had in my entire life. I mean, it's pretty tie between her, Kelly O'Hara, and Heather O'Reilly. But like, she could just run all day full speed. But for her to find that confidence to come out of the back and want the ball inside the 18, I was like, go on, Rye. You deserve that, because she was having such an incredible game, and with a couple of assists as well. Shapansky, rookie, she came out of nowhere. I mean, Lily Real gets in line and just pinpoints her. And it's like, oh, here you go, rookie to rookie. And she came in from the outside back position, just overloading on that back post, and she was just on an island. So there's definitely something in the water, especially with these rookies, boy. I mean, like, first assist, first goals, you get one. Here we go. Let's do it. But these rookies, man, they've been just so entertaining to watch this season.
Yeah, for sure. They're crushing it, and it doesn't matter if it's at home or if it's away. Look, it's tough to get results on the road, but Racing Louisville found themselves doing just that. And you know, when you're joining us on A3 Live, anything can happen, and sometimes that even includes a special guest. And we are so lucky that we are going to be joined by Arin Wright of Racing Louisville.
Hi, guys.
There she is, Arin Wright.
Hi.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Arin. We appreciate the time, because you literally just got done grinding away in a match, and now you gotta talk to us. So we appreciate you hanging out.
No problem.
We were just running down some fun numbers across the league, players hitting a lot of different milestones. It just sort of feels like every week here someone's we're celebrating a record or something like that. And even sometimes those silver linings can look as simple as getting a point on the road. That is not easy to do for teams away on the road, and especially at Providence Park. Maybe not the way you want to close out that game, but at this point in the season, Racing walking away with a point is really important, I think, right, as we kind of look at the long road in front of the season.
Yeah, I think I mean, you watch our last two games, right? Pretty disappointing performances from our team. And I think we were very disappointed in ourselves. And so we had kind of come together as a team and talked about this game and what it means to come to Portland and play in the stadium and the feeling that it exudes. And just, if you can come here and you can really turn things around here, that sets you on a trajectory that is just going to be phenomenal. And you can get the ball rolling from that. And so I think while we only took a point, we should have taken 3. I'm really proud of my team. I'm proud of the performance that they gave. They showed up. They did everything that we asked of them in training this past week. We controlled the controllables, and finally the goals started to come. Our XG has been phenomenal all year, but we haven't found the back of the net. And this game we did, and our goals are bangers. And so I'm really proud of the group. I'm proud of the performance, and I'm excited what this is going to do for our upcoming games. Even though it was a point, we left with a really good feeling. And I'm just going to leave it at there were things that we couldn't control.
I love that. Ever the pro, keeping it real, but also keeping it professional. I appreciate that's one of my favorite things about covering you, Arin. Just to like follow up on that, but before you joined us, we were, like I said, noting all of these kind of really cool, fun with math, a lot of numbers and records and things. And one of the milestones that was hit was Lauren Milliet as the first player in NWSL history to appear in 100 consecutive regular season matches for one club. And I had to pitch it to Jess because I was like, for me, Lauren Milliet is one of the more underrated players across this league. I just wanted to get your thoughts on her performance tonight and as a teammate as well.
Yeah, I think she is just she's the rock of this team, right? She's been here since day one. People look at her and they see the effort she gives on the field, the skill that she has, and that girl does not stop working from minute 1 to minute 90, or at this point 100, however many minutes we play in games now. And I think that she is just someone that you constantly want to emulate. And I think there is one thing that you get from her always, and it's consistency. And I think that is something about players in this league that don't really get all the hype and all the acknowledgement they need. It's the consistent players. They might not do something flashy all the time, but you know what you're going to get out of them game in and game out. And that's what Lauren is. And I don't think this team could be where they are without her.
I 100% agree. I absolutely adore that young woman. But with, the last few losses you guys had before coming into this game against Portland, what was different about your preparation going into Portland? Because this has been one of your better performances, even in comparison to your win against Chicago. This is one of your better performances this season so far. So what was different about your preparation coming into this game in comparison to all the previous games this season?
Yeah, like I said, we had like a moment, just a player meeting, all players, no coaches. And we talked about how it is us versus us right now. And how in the last 2 games, you could kind of see us kind of go into a shell, right? You didn't see that bite, that tenacity, just that like overall belief. And we weren't being the team that we wanted to be, that we worked on being all preseason. And so we went back to the basics. Win your 50-50s, win your duels, force wide, the basic fundamentals of soccer. And if we can control those, the other things are going to come. And I think that we got so caught up in trying to create this beautiful, like ticky-tack soccer, and we forgot about that. And those are the things that were falling short. And that's why we weren't able to connect. And I think we did that this game. We got a goal off our press, on our goal kick press. That to me is like my favorite goal in a really long time, because that just shows, talking about positional excellence, people doing their jobs. They did their jobs to the absolute max. And so while we might have had a great cross from Janine to Emma and header, and that's it's probably going to be a highlight reel. Like Kayla's goal for me is like my favorite goal, because that just shows everything that we worked on and everyone did their job. And when you do your job, your team does well.
I love that. It kind of feels like everyone was pretty tapped in. Like, I mean, if you've got a coach getting a card at the end of the game, everyone across the roster is getting heavily involved in the game. So maybe let's kind of stick with some of that energy to close this out, because you're joining us post game, and I'm sure you want to get your showers and get back out. But is that where the team goes from here? Is it sometimes just sort of you talked a lot about getting back to the fundamentals, despite maybe trying to work on some more external things? Is it just about trying to find that balance? And maybe is this a game that you can take and utilize that as a catalyst to move forward?
Oh, 100%. This was the game we needed. We needed a game like this while the result was still a tie. It wasn't the win that we needed. I think the performance that we had and the effort you saw from each individual executing what they needed to do all game long, that is what we needed to move forward, because that is what we were looking for from the group, to show us that you can execute your job. And the biggest issue we were having is we were performing in just the first half of games. If you go back and look at our games, we kind of great in the first half, and then we fall off in the second. We didn't do that this game, and that's growth. So I'm very excited for this next game, because now we have something to build from, and now we've set a standard, and now you keep that standard.
Thanks. I love it. Energy. I'm amped up. Not that we needed to be more amped up to kind of close out this show, but look, we love to hear from players when they're able to give us a time post game. So thank you so much, Arin, for joining us. Congratulations on scraping out a point, and we're looking forward to seeing what Racing can do from here on out. Thank you.
Thank you, Arin.
Yeah. Thanks, Jess. Good to see you.
You too.
Wow. Look. It's tough. It's tough. Yeah. It's hard to not like get players on here and then not be amped up by that. And, it's tough too when it's a draw, Jess, because it's like you're walking away and splitting points, but at the same time, there is a team that's walking away from a draw, just a little bit disappointed, maybe than some others. But, the seasoned vet, Arin Wright at this point, coming on and kind of opening up the window to like show the blessings a little bit about what this game is, saying that Louisville needed a game like this a little bit. And maybe sometimes that's just what it is. You just need to have those reminders to make sure that they go ahead and can continue to pee, because it's such a long season in front of them. We're definitely going to talk about that as well, because folks who are keeping track, it's about the quarter mark of the season or four. So we're definitely going to go ahead and touch on that for sure. But a couple other things that I just want to close out, because I don't want to, leave the math nerds hungry. I want to make sure we touch on all of these things. We had Claudia Dickey hitting 100 regular season saves. We had Katie Lind hitting 150th NWSL match. Jane Campbell becoming just the 5th goalkeeper in NWSL history to hit 40 regular season shutouts. And maybe that's another one of those games, Jess, where you're like, what can possibly come out of this game for these two particular opponents? Because Houston and Utah, I think at this point in the season, we can effectively say they have had to take the entirety of these 6 weeks to try to really kind of figure themselves out. And I'm not 100% sure. There's still a lot of answers in play as they look ahead to week 7. But for now, as far as the points and as far as the spoils and the bragging rights, that belongs to Houston Dash, because all they needed was a narrow 1-0 victory against Utah to go ahead and snatch all 3 of those points.
Absolutely. Man, I feel like we all know, actually, first and foremost, that Utah has just always been that bubble team. You see the potential in them, you see what they're trying to do, but don't quite execute. And you're like, okay, Utah. But Houston, man, they've been here in this league for too long, and they've been stuck in a bubble. And I thought that with all of the changes this offseason, how big of a difference that was going to make for them, creating some sort of identity. But I mean, even with the changes, I'm like, whew, okay, I'm still not at the edge of my seat quite yet with the Houston Dash. But Jane Campbell, longevity, but what a banger by Sheehan. She was such a great addition between her and Ryan. I think that they've been stellar for this team, but there's just a couple more pieces of the puzzle missing for this Houston Dash side. They don't quite have me convinced. So I think they're kind of stuck in this bubble as well as Utah Royals. So, I mean, they needed that 3 points. They needed it for sure. And they've got potential. They've got potential. They've got it. You look at the roster and you're like, oh, okay, this is going to be a good team, but just still pretty, right there. Mm-hmm. Not quite, the heart rate ain't quite rating yet. It's still kind of flatlining a little bit.
That's a great way for you to put it, because we're talking about some of the games that like had the heart rates elevated, and this one wasn't quite one of them. But when it comes to the standings and things like that, it's about the points, and Houston walked away with all of these for sure. Let's actually have a check-in on that, because again, like I mentioned, how this is technically, we're going to lean into this. It's like the quarter mark of this season. There's a 26-week match season for all clubs. And when you kind of break that down over 4 quarters, it's like 6.5. And that's not a real number when it comes to actual matches. But for this week in particular, there were a couple teams that had 2, and everyone else is definitely closing the chapter on week 6. So it's right in this mark where we've got teams who can no longer really say it's early, let's figure it out. No, because after this week, you are well on your march towards that midway point of the season. Let's take a look at these standings at the official quarter mark of the season. We've got Kansas City Current at number 1, folks. Best team in the league based on the numbers alone. Congrats to them. Orlando Pride in second place, also with 15 points. The margins are very, very narrow. We've got Washington Spirit in third place, 12 points. Gotham FC in fourth. San Diego Wave in fifth. Portland Thorns in sixth. Seattle Reign in seventh. Bay FC holding strong to that official playoff line at number 8. Angel City flirting with that line at number 9. Houston Dash, number 10. NC Courage digging themselves out of the bottom at number 11. Racing Louisville in 12th, Utah Royals in 13, and Chicago Stars ending the same way they started out of week 1 at the bottom here at 14. So maybe not a ton of surprises, Jess, for the top. Maybe not really even a ton of shocking things at the bottom, but there's a whole lot of interesting things in the middle. And I think that for a lot of those kind of mid teams, this is a good moment to kind of have some of that little bit of a check-in. I think we even refer to that April window a little bit in the international break as a little bit of that reset button as well. Maybe this is going to be the opportunity for teams to go ahead and kind of work on some things, but not going to see another one of those for a few weeks here. And so I'm curious if there's any team within kind of these long middle teams that you think is going to have a little bit of a breakout in this next quarter of the season compared to what they did in the first 6 weeks. I can't hear you, bud. I want to hear what you're saying.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Dog was barking, so I had to mute my mic.
That's all right.
I forgot I muted it. Sorry. You know what? I have such high hopes for Bay FC. I have high hopes. They've been stuck in this bubble as well. They went on this multiple losing streak last season, and then they kind of just came on this rise. And I'm like, okay, y'all got it. All right, let's do something here. And so I think that with Rachel Kundananji, Oshuala, Carly Lima, they have just such a dynamic front line that I feel they can do more with. Kundananji, I mean, she was on her horses up against Seattle Reign over the weekend, but it still wasn't enough for her team. There are still decisions that are being made in the final third. Like, man, you should have crossed instead of shooting. You should have shot, instead of crossing, vice versa. And so I think that once Bay FC finds some consistency, they're going to be a hard team to play against because they've switched some things around tactically, and you can see that some of it just didn't work. But you see what they're trying to do, and sometimes they execute and just sometimes they don't. And so I think that they're one of those teams that I firmly believe can figure it out. Like you look at their roster as well, and they're stacked. They really are. And I think with Tess Bodie out right now with an ankle injury, she's a huge loss for them. So once she comes back, I think that the game's going to completely change because she plays such a huge role for this team. And I think that she meshes so well with that forward line, especially when she's trying to get forward and combine. And she's just phenomenal on the ball too. So I think Bay FC might be my team for high hopes.
I think that's fair. I think they're literally smacked. They are the line. Bay FC are the line. It's like, are we going to see them hold that line, or are we going to just see them go ahead and leapfrog and do what they're maybe kind of perhaps destined to do, because it sort of feels like in some of the games that they're playing where we're seeing some of these pieces finally come together. And again, it's a long season, so maybe they're going to get these pieces back and make that type of run, kind of similarly to how we saw them do in the second half of 2024. So we'll see. I'm with you on that. I think that's a fair shout for sure. I'm going to close out this segment with this. My biggest takeaway out of week 6 is I'm going to revisit the rivalry concept. I appreciate that over the last 2 weeks, there's been a lot of heavy emphasis on regional rivalries for NWSL. We had week 5 talking all about Cascadia with Portland and Seattle, and how that is the rivalry. It is the longest standing rivalry in NWSL. But for some of the old heads, some of us who have been going here for a little while, we can kind of dig deep into the lore of NWSL and find some of these rivalries outside of region, because out of week 6, there was a huge emphasis on the regional concept rivalry between the Spirit and Gotham, both East Coast teams, and both coming out of a pretty spicy semifinal in 2024. So I think when you're highlighting that so much, it kind of feels very new. You're like, how is this a rivalry just based on geographic and approximately one spicy match? But I loved the game that came out of it, because it also provided a lot of spice from Gotham's side for sure. But I want to shout out some of these very unique, in the weeds kind of rivalries. I love what we saw against Orlando Pride and Angel City. Angel City is a team that is only a few years old, and for Orlando, who were a former expansion team themselves, kind of have hit this reset button on their culture. They are no longer bottom dwellers. They are bona fide contenders. They are the reigning title holders, shield winners. And yet we see these two teams going head to head and having these kind of ridiculous kind of games. And then we also had a crazy game with North Carolina and Kansas City. I need that on the rivalry books as well. I love what we got to see out of those two particular games. And I love that the league is making an emphasis on building NWSL specific stars and NWSL specific rivalries. And I want to see them lean into the lore, not so much the region. We've got more for you. We are going to talk about our team of the week. Stay tuned after a quick break. All right, we're back, and we're going to close it out with our team of the week special segment. This is my favorite segment, Jess, because we said, what are some things that we're going to do this season in 2025? You know, we love to be trendsetters here at Attacking Third. We were like, you know, let's have a women's soccer show and beyond, like, every single day, and constantly be live and have people join us and do this and do that. What are some other ways that we can kind of lead the way? We should definitely have a team of the week, a best 11 every single week. And I love that we are doing that. We're bringing that to the space, but it's just me and you tonight. A lot of times we'll have Sunday nights where we're a trio, where we're a quartet, but we said, no, we're going to fly as a duo. And we're gonna exchange. We're gonna exchange starting 11s. You're gonna read me yours. I'm gonna read you mine, and maybe we'll have some overlap. Maybe we won't, and maybe we'll finalize the actual starting 11 to close things out. I'm going to give the honors to go ahead and lead us off. Who do you got in your best 11 for team of the week, Jess?
All right, so best 11. Here we go. This was hard because so many players showed up and showed out this week. My goodness. Okay, so starting in goal, I got to go with Ann-Katrin Berger. She was just phenomenal. I mean, enough said there. And then I went with the back 3 with Ryan Williams, Callie Kurtz, and Lily Reel. I thought Lily Reel was just ecstatic up against Washington Spirit this weekend. I mean, just such a good 1v1 defender. And then my midfield, I'm going to go with Shupansky, Denise O'Sullivan, Ashley Sanchez, and Portillo.
All right.
And forward line, I'm going with Cascarino, Esher, and Bia. Bia. I thought she was, man, she's so good. She's so good.
Okay. All right. You know what? I'm gonna say this. We've got some similarities here. We've got overlap on our 11s. Got mine written down. I'm still a pen and paper girly.
Okay.
So we're starting off strong here. I'm gonna go back to front. We're starting off strong, Jess.
Okay.
I also have AKB in net.
Okay.
And Katrinberger doing the thing. Talk about a week, because Gotham did not start off strong, but I tell you what they did do. They ended strong.
Amen.
And AKB ended up taking some punishment, but was able to kind of get through things and look, gave us some real vintage goalkeeping type of stuff. So I've got her to round things off. Lily Real is another one in my back line. And here's maybe where we get a little bit different. And that's okay. Listen, I get it. I respect it. I did not win a bajillion T titles with the Courage, so I don't have a lot of Courage players on here, but I understand why you do. I'm giving the tip to center back with Emily Sonnet. I think she's been doing some incredible things and has been taking on a lot of responsibility in that role for them.
I agree.
So I got her there. I also am giving a shout to Trinity Armstrong on my back line as well. I think this young player
she's 17.
Yes.
She's 17.
Being given the opportunities. Jonas Edeval said, you can play. Go out and get it done. And believe walking out with an assist as well against this game against Chicago Stars. And maybe here's the opportunity, because you and I have a lot of Wave players, I think, across mutually our 11s. And it's an opportunity for us to get a chance to talk about that game a little bit, because I thought this was another game for Armstrong to go ahead and make an appearance in this backline, because we've had her on here before. Now, this might be controversial here. This might be controversial for my final defender here.
Okay.
Because it wasn't a lot of minutes, but it was a lot of impact. I got to go with Carson Pickett. I got to give some love to Carson Pickett. I'm a little, but I get.
Was that her first touch when she had that assist? I'm trying to figure that out.
Let us know, chat. Because I got to get through this 11. Because Pickett, for me, I think, was the catalyst to really make sure that Orlando came correct and was like, we're not in our house, baby, not tonight. And so I got Carson Pickett on that back line. We're talking, this is a fast food drive-through special, because Carson Pickett did the most with almost nothing here. And then I've got Dali and Corley repping that midfield. And I've also got a special spot for Delaney Sheehan as well, but I could be swayed. Cascarino, Esher, Barbara Banda to round out my 11. So I think
like yours.
You like mine better?
You know what, low key, because you know what, I don't know if you're on the episode with me, but I gave Trinity Armstrong a shout before the season even started who my rookie of the year was going to be.
Okay, how about this? I'll concede one. I'll give you Kaylee Kurtz, and we'll take out Emily Simon. And that's going to be the best 11 for A3. Okay. We've got AKB, we've got Lily Real, Kaylee Kurtz, Trinity Armstrong, Carson Pickett, Dali Corley for the Wave, and Delaney Sheehan in the middle third. We've got Cascarino, Esher, and Barbara Banda to round out that top line. Thanks, Jess. I appreciate that. I conceded one.
Yeah, but I told you before the show started, I'm like, look, I could easily go for a second 11, like easily. And those would have been the players, everyone who you just named. I'm like, yep, she's right.
not here for a long time, just here for a good time. And what a time was had. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. If you're hanging out with us live on YouTube, or if you were joining us on Golasso, we appreciate you as always. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe, and follow Attacking Third on Golasso Network and wherever you find your podcast. Jess, McDonald, thank you for being here tonight. For Jess, myself, Sandra, Herrera, and our producer, Mark, NWSL Chaos, you love to see it. We'll be back on Tuesday. Make sure you tune in at 11 a.m. Eastern. See you there. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, you guys.